The Great Pyramid of Giza holds a secret message written in the language of the stars. For centuries, we have debated whether the perfect alignment of ancient monuments with the sun and stars was an accident or a deliberate act of genius. This is the forgotten code hidden in ancient astronomical alignments, a sophisticated system where our ancestors carved their knowledge of the cosmos directly into stone. By the end of this journey, you will be able to look at history's greatest ruins and see them not as silent piles of rock, but as complex celestial computers. We will uncover how a temple doorway could predict the changing seasons, and why a lonely stone circle in the desert might be one of humanity's oldest calendars. What part of our modern world might be secretly guided by these ancient rhythms? That night sky map was not merely observed, it was physically drawn onto the Earth itself. This forgotten code is the architectural echo of the cosmos, a deliberate choice by ancient builders to anchor their greatest structures to the sun, moon, and stars. Think of a temple doorway perfectly framing the rising sun on the spring equinox, or a single narrow corridor within a pyramid aimed directly at the North Star. These were not random acts of construction. As the renowned archaeoastronomer Dr. Anthony Aveney explains, these alignments were a language spoken between earth and sky. It was a dialogue written in stone and light. This celestial language served profound practical needs. For an agricultural society, knowing the precise day to plant crops was a matter of survival. A monument that acted as a giant calendar, marking the solstices and equinoxes with beams of light, provided that critical information, but the purpose ran deeper than just harvests. These alignments were woven into the very fabric of ritual and belief. They connected a community to the cycles of creation, reinforcing a philosophical view that humanity was an integral part of a vast, ordered universe. To understand how they built this code, we need to grasp a few simple principles. The builders used the horizon as their giant ruler. They would note the specific point on the horizon, measured as an angle called an azimuth, where a celestial body like the sun would rise on a significant day. Then they would construct their monument to frame that exact point, a lone standing stone, the edge of a massive pyramid, or the gap between two pillars could all serve as a permanent sightline to the heavens. Our modern global positioning system relies on a network of complex satellites, but these ancient cultures used the stars as their fixed reference points. This does not speak to a primitive mind, but to a brilliant and patient intelligence, one that watched the sky for generations to decode its rhythms. The origins of this incredible practice are found in humanity's deepest past. 5,000 years ago, a community gathered at Stonehenge, their eyes fixed on the horizon as the sun broke the dawn and rose in perfect alignment between the towering heel stone. This was not a random sunrise. It was the summer solstice, a day meticulously marked by a ring of stones that these people had dragged for miles and painstakingly erected. Across the sea in Ireland, the massive, grass-covered mound of Newgrange held a similar secret. Its long, narrow entrance passage was engineered so that for just a few minutes each year, at the winter solstice sunrise, a single, narrow beam of sunlight would race down the corridor and illuminate the deepest, darkest inner chamber. These structures are not just old, they are some of the earliest known examples of humanity writing its celestial code into the landscape, a practice dating back over 5,000 years. The sheer effort involved is staggering. Moving multi-ton stones without the wheel or metal tools was a monumental task that would have consumed entire generations. So why did they do it? The anthropologist Margaret Murray argued that these sites functioned as massive communal calendars. In a world without paper or digital reminders, the stones themselves marked the turning of the seasons. They told people when to plant their crops, when to harvest, and when to gather for important religious ceremonies. This was astronomy with a profoundly practical purpose, essential for survival. But the purpose was also deeply spiritual. That moment when the sun pierced the darkness of Newgrange was more than a date on a calendar. It was a dramatic, annual reaffirmation of order over chaos, of light conquering dark. It bound the community together, reinforcing social cohesion through a shared, awe-inspiring experience. These early monuments reveal a universal human drive to find our place in the cosmos, to connect our small lives to the vast, predictable cycles of the heavens. From these humble but brilliant beginnings, the art of celestial alignment would only grow more sophisticated. The ambition of the Egyptians took this celestial code to an entirely new scale. Along the Nile, at the precise moment of dawn, the shadows of the pyramids reached across the desert, their silent geometry echoing a pattern written in the night sky. The Great Pyramid of Giza is not only massive, it is almost unnervingly precise. Its base forms a near-perfect square, and its four sides are aligned to the four cardinal directions with an error of less than a single degree. This was not guesswork, this was a deliberate, masterful act of engineering, but the builders looked beyond the sun. Deep within the pyramid, narrow shafts were constructed, not for ventilation as once thought, but as sightlines to the heavens. One shaft points directly toward the star Sirius, the brightest in our sky. Another aims for the stars of Orion's belt. In Egyptian mythology, these were not random points of light. Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and Sirius with Isis, his wife. The stars were the imperishable ones, the eternal guides for the soul of the pharaoh. This connection led researcher Robert Bovell to propose a stunning idea, the Orion correlation theory. He suggested that the layout of the three main Giza pyramids mirrors the exact arrangement of the three stars in Orion's belt. The entire Giza plateau becomes a massive star map, a permanent replica of the celestial realm built here on Earth. This alignment was deeply symbolic, charting the pharaoh's journey to join the gods, but it was also profoundly practical. The annual rising of Sirius, known as the Heliacal Rise, heralded the coming flood of the Nile. This event was the lifeblood of Egypt, dictating the agricultural cycle and the survival of the civilization. By building their monuments to track these stars, the Egyptians fused their spiritual beliefs with the most critical knowledge for their society. How they achieved such accuracy without modern tools, leveling a 13-acre site to within an inch of perfect flatness, remains one of history's greatest mysteries. It stands as a powerful testament to human innovation, a message carved in stone that we are still deciphering today. And this drive to encode the cosmos was not unique to the old world. A similar story was unfolding entirely independently on the other side of the globe. Far across the ocean, the Maya were building their own cosmic clock. At Chichen Itza, as the sun sets on the spring equinox, a breathtaking phenomenon unfolds. The stepped corners of the Pyramid of Kukulkan cast a series of triangular shadows down the northern staircase, creating the undulating body of a giant serpent that connects to a stone serpent head at the base. This was no accident of light and shadow. It was a meticulously engineered display, a calendar in stone that announced the arrival of the planting season with a divine spectacle. The Maya did not just mark time, they wove it into the very fabric of their cities, creating a sophisticated system of interlocking calendars that tracked the sun, the moon, and the planets with astonishing precision. They were master astronomers who looked to Venus not just as a bright star, but as a powerful god of war. The Caracol, a unique round tower at Chichen Itza, is often called an observatory. Its narrow windows are precisely aligned to the extreme rising and setting points of Venus on the horizon. The movements of this planet dictated the timing of royal ceremonies and even when to go to battle, blending celestial observation with the fate of kings and empires. Scholar John B. Carlson points to another critical alignment, the zenith passage. This is the moment, occurring only twice a year in the tropics, when the sun passes directly overhead at noon, casting no shadows. At sites like Monte Albon, special architectural features marked this day, which signaled the imminent arrival of the life-giving rains. For an agricultural society, this was a pivotal piece of knowledge, a direct signal from the heavens to prepare the earth. This entire system was built on a profound philosophical belief that time itself was cyclical, not linear. Great cosmic patterns repeated over vast epochs, like the famous long count calendar, which measured cycles of thousands of years. Their gods were not separate from these cycles, they were the cycles. Deities of maize, rain, and the sun were intrinsically linked to the movements of celestial bodies, recorded in intricate codices and carved onto stone stelae. Their science and their spirituality were one and the same. In a world facing environmental uncertainty, their deep, encoded connection to natural rhythms offered a blueprint for resilience, a way to anticipate and adapt to the challenges of their world. This ancient wisdom, written in the alignment of a window or the shadow on a pyramid, was a tool for survival. And just as these cultures used the stars to anchor their world in time, others would use that same sky to guide them across the trackless sea. While the Maya built their cities as clocks, another culture used the sky as their compass. Across the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean, Polynesian navigators guided their double-hulled canoes over thousands of miles of open water. They had no maps, no sextants, and no magnetic compass. Their entire world was the sea and the sky, a living library of natural signs they learned to read with breathtaking accuracy. They called their art wayfinding, a complex system of navigation that relied on the stars, the swell of the waves, the flight patterns of birds, and even the color of the clouds. At the heart of this knowledge was the star compass, a mental map of the heavens where every star was a landmark. The rising point of the Pleiades cluster, known to them as Macale, might guide them north, while the Southern Cross, or Nu, marked a southern course. These were not just points of light, they were ancestral pathways, each one telling a story and holding a specific purpose. Master navigator Nainoa Thompson, who revived these ancient techniques, describes how a navigator would memorize the precise point on the horizon where hundreds of stars would rise and set, creating a mental grid across the entire ocean. This knowledge was not written down. It was passed orally from one generation to the next, a sacred trust that ensured the survival and spread of their people across the world's largest ocean. On land, this celestial code was etched into the culture. Sacred stone platforms called mariae were often constructed with specific stones or sightlines aligned to the rising or setting of key stars. These alignments did more than mark directions, they marked time, signaling the seasons for safe migration, much like a celestial calendar telling them when the winds were right for a long voyage. How does this intimate, embodied knowledge compare to our modern reliance on a smartphone's global positioning system? Their achievements stand as a profound reminder of the power of pure observation and the depth of human memory. They did not just look at the stars, they sailed by them, turning the entire night sky into a roadmap for exploration. From the endless blue of the ocean, we find the same celestial language written in the stark, dry landscapes of the American Southwest. Long before the pyramids rose from the desert, another stone circle marked the sky. In what is now the barren Sahara of southern Egypt, the site of Nabta Playa tells a story of a very different world. Around 7,000 years ago, this was a green savanna, home to cattle herding people who gathered at a seasonal lake. And there, they built a complex arrangement of megaliths, a stone calendar that rivals Stonehenge in its antiquity. Archaeologist Fred Wendorf and his team uncovered this hidden marvel, a circle of stones where key slabs were precisely aligned to the summer solstice sunrise and to the position of bright stars, including the all-important Sirius. This was not a temple in the traditional sense. It was a practical, sophisticated device for survival. These nomadic pastoralists relied on the brief, unpredictable monsoon rains to water their grasslands. By tracking the stars and the sun, they could anticipate the coming of these vital rains, knowing when to drive their herds to the Nabta Playa basin. Their entire annual cycle, their very livelihood, depended on this celestial knowledge. Why would people constantly on the move invest such immense effort in dragging and erecting multi-ton stones? The answer lies in the power of shared knowledge. This calendar was a communal investment, a fixed point of reference that coordinated the movements of scattered clans. It was an anchor in a changing landscape, ensuring that different groups would arrive at the watering hole at the correct time, preventing conflict and planning for the future. The sophistication of Nabta Playa is breathtaking. One stone slab, now fallen, once cast a shadow that pointed directly to the North Star, providing a true north reference. Other alignments targeted the zenith passage of the sun, that moment when it is directly overhead, a key event for cultures living near the Tropic of Cancer. This was not crude stargazing. It was a systematic, encoded science developed by cattle herders over 1,000 years before the first Egyptian pharaohs. What does this tell us? It reveals a profound truth. When faced with the same fundamental challenges, like predicting seasonal change for survival, human societies separated by vast distances and millennia arrived at remarkably similar solutions. The builders of Stonehenge, the Maya, and the herders of Nabta Playa all looked to the heavens and saw a clock. They all chose to build that clock in stone, creating a permanent link between the earth and the sky. This drive to find order in the cosmos appears to be a universal human impulse, a foundational piece of our shared history. High on a desert butte in New Mexico, a single dagger of sunlight pierces a spiral petroglyph at the summer solstice. Far to the south, atop a misty Andean peak, a carved stone pillar at Machu Picchu casts no shadow at noon on the same day. These two cultures, separated by continents and centuries, never met, yet they spoke the same silent language of light and stone. This is the pattern that emerges across the globe, a chorus of ancient voices all singing from the same celestial sheet of music. From the British Isles to the Cambodian jungle, humanity's greatest structures repeatedly lock onto the same astronomical targets. The Great Temple of Angkor Wat is precisely aligned to capture the rising sun on the spring equinox, just as the massive columns of the Temple of Karnak in Egypt were, thousands of years earlier and a world away. They were all tracking the sun's annual journey, using its predictable path to mark the passage of time with breathtaking accuracy. Why would cultures with no conceivable contact repeatedly choose the same alignments? Scholars like Giulio Magli have mapped these patterns, noting how many sites are oriented to the cardinal directions or to specific angles, such as 15 degrees east of north. This could reflect subtle shifts in the Earth's magnetic pole over millennia, or it might point to a deeper mythological significance attached to that particular direction. The underlying driver, however, seems to be a universal human need. The solstices and equinoxes were not abstract ideas, they were the fundamental pulse of life. They dictated when to plant, when to harvest, and when the rains would come. This shared celestial code was a tool for survival, born from a collective wisdom that transcended any single culture. It reveals an interconnectedness of the human mind, a common response to the rhythms of the natural world. To truly understand their genius, we must now look past the grand monuments and decode the simple, elegant mathematics that made it all possible. The language of the sky was first translated into the language of the earth through simple, elegant tools. An ancient surveyor did not need complex machinery. Armed with nothing more than a vertical pole called a gnomon and a length of rope, they could map the heavens onto the ground. By watching the shadow cast by the gnomon over the course of a day, they could trace a perfect east-west line. By marking the extreme points of a star's movement on the horizon with stakes and connecting them with a cord, they could establish a permanent celestial sightline. This was practical geometry in its purest form, but the sophistication hidden within these simple acts is what truly astounds us. Take the Pythagorean theorem, a cornerstone of geometry famously associated with the Greek philosopher. Astonishingly, mathematical principles that produce perfect right-angled triangles were in use thousands of years earlier. The proportions of the Great Pyramid itself are a silent testament to this, its shape embodying a deep understanding of ratios and angles that would not be formally defined for millennia. This was not necessarily written mathematics as we know it. It was an embodied knowledge, a feel for harmonious proportion that was built directly into their world. The researcher Alexander Thom surveyed hundreds of stone circles across Britain and proposed a startling idea. He believed the builders used a standardized unit of measurement, which he called the megalithic yard, approximately 2.72 of our feet. This consistent measure, he argued, allowed for the creation of complex elliptical and egg-shaped structures with stunning geometric precision, all aligned to lunar and solar cycles. Why would a unit of measurement matter so much? It suggests a shared, codified knowledge, a building code for the cosmos that was passed down across generations. This drive for harmony extended beyond simple measurement. The golden ratio, a special proportion often found in nature's most beautiful patterns like the spiral of a nautilus shell, appears repeatedly in ancient architecture. The facade of the Parthenon in Greece is famously composed using this ratio, creating a visual harmony that feels instinctively right to the human eye. For these builders, this was more than just aesthetics. They saw these geometric and mathematical principles as reflections of a universal order, a sacred geometry that connected their humble temples to the grand design of the cosmos itself. The spiral petroglyphs carved by ancestral pueblones, echoing the Fibonacci sequence found in sunflowers and pine cones, are a powerful example of this belief. They were drawing the blueprint of nature itself onto stone. This fusion of math and astronomy reached its zenith in places like Teotihuacan in Mexico. The entire city is a massive geometric grid, its central avenue of the dead and its major pyramids all carefully aligned to specific celestial events, like the Pleiades star cluster setting directly behind the Pyramid of the Sun. The Pyramid of El Castillo at Chichen Itza, with its 91 steps on each of 4 sides, adding up to 364 steps plus the one temple platform at the top to equal the solar year, is a mathematical poem written in stone. This encoded knowledge allowed for breathtaking long-term predictions. By understanding the cyclical patterns of the moon and sun, cultures like the Maya could predict eclipses, events that must have seemed like the gods temporarily altering the natural order. How did they achieve this without written formulas or supercomputers? They possessed an intuitive, generations-deep grasp of pattern recognition. They watched, they recorded, and they built, turning abstract celestial rhythms into tangible, predictable geometry. This mathematical code was the invisible scaffold upon which the celestial alignments were built, a silent testament to human ingenuity. But behind every precise alignment and every harmonic ratio, there lay a deeper, more profound layer of meaning. These celestial alignments were far more than just calendars or compasses. They were the physical stages for humanity's greatest stories. Look up at the constellation of Orion, the hunter. In Greek myth, he is forever pursuing the seven sisters of the Pleiades across the dome of the night sky. This very same drama was played out in stone, with temples aligned to the rising of these stars, turning the annual celestial event into a live performance of their most cherished legends. The stars were not distant balls of gas, they were gods, ancestors, and heroes. For the Egyptians, the sun was the god Ra, embarking on his daily journey across the sky. The long, dark corridors of their temples, like at Karnak, were designed as a microcosm of this journey. As the sun's light moved through these halls, it reenacted Ra's voyage from dawn to dusk, a daily ritual connecting the pharaoh and his people to the divine. The scholar Mircea Eliade called these sacred sites axis mundi, points where heaven and earth met. A pyramid, a ziggurat, or a solitary mountain peak was not just a building, it was a cosmic pillar, a ladder between worlds where communication with the gods was possible. This idea resonates across the globe. In Norse tradition, the shimmering aurora borealis was seen as Bifrost, the burning bridge to the realm of the gods, Asgard. On the ground, stone ships, arrangements of rocks in the shape of Viking vessels, were carefully aligned to the pole star. These were not boats for the sea, but spiritual vessels intended to carry the souls of the dead on their final voyage to the afterlife. Why did these myths persist for centuries alongside increasingly precise scientific observations? A simple date on a calendar tells you when to plant seeds, but a story about a goddess of the harvest descending to earth gives that day meaning, emotion, and power. Myths provided the emotional resonance that made cold, hard astronomical facts matter to the human heart. They transformed the predictable cycles of the cosmos into a grand, ongoing narrative about life, death, and renewal, helping people understand their place within that immense story. This beautiful blend of story and science is what made their celestial code so enduring, enriching their cultural legacy in a way that pure data never could. And just as these sacred principles guided the placement of a single stone, they would also be used to design entire cities. The principles of celestial order were not confined to solitary temples or remote stone circles. They were woven into the very fabric of ancient cities, creating urban landscapes that mirrored the harmony of the heavens. Walk through the meticulously planned streets of Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, laid out over 4,000 years ago. Its grid pattern, one of the oldest in the world, was likely aligned to the cardinal directions, turning the entire city into a giant solar instrument that honored cosmic cycles with every sunrise. This practice was a global phenomenon. From ancient China to imperial Rome, city planners integrated astronomy directly into their blueprints. The main streets of Roman towns, the Decumanus and Cardo, were not arbitrarily placed. They were often laid out based on the path of the sun, with the Decumanus frequently aligned to the rising sun on the day the city was founded, embedding that specific celestial moment into the daily life of every citizen. In China, this concept reached its zenith with the Forbidden City in Beijing. The entire complex is aligned on a north-south axis, pointing directly toward the pole star. For the emperor, this was not just a matter of orientation. It was a powerful, physical declaration of his role as the son of heaven. his earthly authority anchored to the one fixed, unmoving point in the entire night sky. His mandate was written in the stars and carved into the city's layout for all to see. As urban historian Spiro Kostov observed, this created a profound sense of order and harmony. The city became a microcosm, a reflection of the perfect, predictable cosmos, meant to bring that celestial balance down to Earth for its inhabitants. Across the world in North America, the great city of Cahokia featured its own astronomical infrastructure. Massive wooden circles, now called Woodhenge, stood just outside its central mound. These posts acted as a giant calendar, tracking the solstices and equinoxes to coordinate the agricultural cycle and time major ceremonies. The city's layout itself, with its grand central plaza and towering Monk's Mound, was likely designed to frame these celestial events, integrating the community's spiritual and practical life into a single, cohesive plan. This ancient approach to urban design ensured cities functioned efficiently while honoring a deep connection to the natural world. Every walk to the market, every gathering in the plaza, happened within a space consciously aligned with the sun and stars. How does our modern urban design compare? Our city grids are often laid out for maximum real estate value and traffic flow, with little regard for solar paths or seasonal light. The ancient model offers a powerful lesson in sustainability and well-being, reminding us that a city can be more than a collection of buildings. It can be a living system in dialogue with the cosmos. This grand vision of cosmic order did not stop at the city limits. It extended into the very walls of individual structures, where even more intricate codes were hidden in plain sight. The stones of the Coricancha in Cusco tell a silent story of impossible precision. Inca builders, without mortar or modern tools, fitted granite blocks so perfectly that a razor blade cannot slide between them. Within these walls, they carved niches that capture the first golden light of the June solstice sunrise with unerring accuracy. This was not crude construction, it was a form of high art fused with celestial science. How did they achieve such perfection? The mystery only deepens when we look at other sites. In Lebanon, the colossal foundation stones of the Baalbek temple platform, some weighing over 1,000 tons, are not only impossibly heavy, they are also precisely oriented to celestial events. Moving such masses would be a monumental challenge even with today's engineering, yet ancient builders positioned them with an astronomer's eye. Engineers like Christopher Dunn have pondered these feats for decades, suggesting the possibility of lost technologies or a far more advanced understanding of physics than we typically credit to the ancient world. Perhaps they used simple but brilliant tools, like vast reflecting pools of water that acted as perfect horizontal levels to align their foundations over great distances. Or maybe they employed sonic resonance or some other principle we have yet to rediscover. Consider the Dolmen of Menga in Spain, a megalithic tomb built over 5,000 years ago. Its long, narrow entrance corridor is perfectly targeted to the summer solstice sunrise, so that the first light of the longest day would flood the inner chamber. The builders achieved this alignment using multi-ton stone slabs, a task that defies easy explanation. These architectural anomalies are not mere curiosities. They are profound challenges to our assumptions about the timeline of human innovation. They suggest a deeper, perhaps unified, understanding of astronomy, geometry, and engineering that has since faded from memory. What other secrets are locked within the angles of these stones? They stand as a permanent invitation to reconsider the sophistication of the past, pushing us to look beyond our textbooks for answers. As we decode these alignments, we find they often point toward moments of celestial drama, events that held the power to transform entire societies. A sudden darkness falls at midday, the sun vanishing behind an unseen force. In ancient Mesopotamia, this was a moment of pure terror. The world was ending, the gods were angry, and the king's very reign hung in the balance. But high on the temple ziggurats, the priests were not always surprised. They consulted clay tablets covered in tiny, precise cuneiform, records of lunar eclipses stretching back for centuries. Through patient, generational observation, the Babylonians had cracked a celestial code. They discovered the Saros cycle, a pattern where eclipses repeat almost exactly every 18 years and 11 days. This was not abstract math, it was a practical tool of statecraft. An eclipse was a dire omen, believed to foretell the death of a king or the fall of a city. By predicting it, the priesthood could perform rituals to appease the gods and protect the throne, turning a potential disaster into a demonstration of their divine connection. Their astronomical genius was not confined to the Middle East. Centuries later, a lump of corroded bronze recovered from a Mediterranean shipwreck would astonish the world. The Antikythera mechanism was a complex clockwork of interlocking gears, a Greek analog computer that could model the motions of the sun, moon, and planets. By turning a hand crank, an ancient user could predict lunar phases and even the precise timing of solar eclipses years in advance. This intricate device proves that the drive to encode celestial motion was not just spiritual, it was a feat of mechanical engineering rivaling anything created for over 1,000 years after. Across the Atlantic, the Maya pursued the same goal through a different medium. Their Dresden Codex, a book of bark paper, contains detailed tables predicting eclipses with remarkable accuracy. For the Maya, an eclipse was a time of cosmic vulnerability, when malevolent forces might disrupt the world order. Accurate prediction was essential for rulers to conduct the correct ceremonies, reinforcing their power and ensuring the sun's victorious return. How did they achieve this without telescopes or advanced machinery? The answer lies in a scale of patience we can barely comprehend. It required scribes and astronomers to faithfully record what they saw, generation after generation, for centuries. They looked for patterns in the chaos, building a library of the sky that allowed them to forecast its most dramatic events. This long-term data collection is a humbling testament to human dedication. And just as we see with the Saros cycle, this knowledge often became encoded in myth, making it unforgettable. In Hindu tradition, the solar eclipse is explained by the demon Rahu, who attempts to drink the elixir of immortality. The sun and moon decapitate him, but his head, now immortal, forever chases them across the sky, occasionally swallowing them whole. This vivid story is more than a fable. It is a mnemonic device, a way to remember the predictable, cyclical nature of an event that feels anything but predictable. The moon, with its constant waxing and waning, was the most reliable timekeeper our ancestors ever knew. While the sun dictated the grand cycle of the year, the moon governed the rhythm of the month. A full moon rises between the ancient pillars of Callanish in Scotland, but this is no ordinary moonrise. This event marks a major lunar standstill, a moment when the moon reaches its most extreme position in the sky, an alignment that only repeats every 18.6 years. At sites like Callanish, the stones are positioned to frame this rare, dramatic event, turning the landscape into a long-term lunar calendar. Anthropologist Lionel Sims argues that these lunar cycles were deeply practical, influencing the timing of hunting expeditions and the gathering of key resources that followed a monthly, not annual, pattern. But the moon's influence ran far deeper than scheduling. Its constant transformation from a sliver to a glowing orb and back into darkness made it a universal symbol of death and rebirth, a celestial body intimately linked to fertility and the mysterious power of water. In the kivas of the Pueblo peoples in the American Southwest, rituals were timed to the moon's phases, honoring its perceived control over rain and the growth of crops. This ancient lunar timekeeping is not a relic of the past. It continues today in calendars like the Islamic Hijri, which governs the timing of Ramadan and other holy months, proving the enduring power of this celestial rhythm. Why would a culture meticulously track both the sun and the moon? They provided a dual pulse for life. The sun offered the steady, predictable beat of the seasons, while the moon introduced a more fluid, monthly tempo of transformation and renewal. This intricate dance between our two great luminaries reveals a sophisticated understanding of time itself, but the builders of the code did not stop there. They looked beyond our immediate celestial companions to the wandering stars, the planets, and found an even more complex story written in the night. The planets were the wild cards of the ancient sky. While the sun and moon followed predictable paths, these wandering stars moved to their own mysterious rhythm, and our ancestors tracked every step. A rare, brilliant convergence of Jupiter and Saturn, what we call the Great Conjunction, was not just a beautiful sight. For Babylonian and later Hellenistic astrologers, it was a potent omen, a herald of dynastic change or the birth of a great leader, an event so significant they sometimes encoded its occurrence into the alignments of their temples. This was celestial statecraft, using the planets to read the fate of empires. This practice reached an incredible level of precision with the Maya. At Uxmal, the magnificent governor's palace is not randomly situated. Its central doorway is precisely aligned to the southernmost extreme rising point of Venus. For the Maya, Venus was not a benign object, it was the god Kukulkan, associated with war and rain. The appearance of Venus in the dawn sky could signal the time to launch a military campaign or to crown a new king, turning astronomy into a direct tool of political power. Across the world in India, this cosmic harmony was built directly into sacred architecture. Many Hindu temples are laid out as a physical representation of the Navagraha, the 9 celestial influences which include the sun, the moon, the 5 visible planets, and the lunar node. A devotee walking through the temple would literally be moving through a model of the solar system, with each shrine to a specific deity corresponding to a celestial body, its energy, and its mythic story. This was not a series of isolated discoveries. As historian David Pingree demonstrated, a vast cross-cultural network of knowledge existed. Babylonian planetary omens recorded on cuneiform tablets traveled along trade routes, deeply influencing the development of Greek and Indian astronomy. A single idea about Mars as a harbinger of conflict could echo from Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean and beyond, being adapted and refined by each culture it touched. This shared knowledge allowed for stunning predictions. By understanding the cycles of the planets, these early astronomers could anticipate retrogrades, those periods when a planet appears to move backward in the sky, and conjunctions when 2 planets draw dramatically close. They didn't just predict these events, they wove them into their most enduring myths. The Sumerian story of the goddess Inanna's descent into the underworld, for instance, perfectly mirrors the 40-day period when Venus disappears from the evening sky before reappearing as the morning star. Her myth of death and rebirth was the story of the planet, written in the stars and told for generations. How could they possibly distinguish the slow, meandering path of a planet from the fixed tapestry of stars, all with the naked eye? It was a triumph of patient, acute pattern recognition. They didn't need telescopes, they needed lifetimes of careful watching, noting which points of light moved independently against the static background, charting their slow dances over years and decades. This accumulated data was a treasure beyond any king's ransom, a celestial code that held the keys to time, power, and meaning. But this priceless knowledge was incredibly fragile, and its survival depended on a delicate chain of transmission that stretched across continents and centuries. The celestial code was not carved in stone alone. It was woven into the very breath of a culture. An Aboriginal elder sits with a young apprentice under the vast outback sky, pointing not to random dots of light, but to the emu in the dark, a constellation formed from the cosmic dust between the stars. This shape does not simply hang in the void. It maps the ancestral journey of the Creator beings across the land, a story sung into existence during the dream time. The positions of these celestial figures dictated the timing for harvesting emu eggs or when to travel to sacred waterholes. This knowledge was not written down in manuals. It was memorized through songlines, epic narratives that charted both the physical and the celestial landscape in one seamless oral map. The survival of this intricate code depended entirely on the flawless transmission from one generation to the next, a sacred responsibility carried in memory and melody. This phenomenon was a global one. In West Africa, the Dogon people possessed a stunningly detailed understanding of the Sirius star system. For generations, their priests spoke of a tiny, heavy, invisible companion star to the bright Sirius, which they called Potolo. Modern astronomy would later confirm the existence of Sirius B, a dense white dwarf star completely impossible to see without a powerful telescope. How could they have known? The anthropologist Marcel Grioul recorded how this precise astronomical data was encoded within a rich mythological framework, where the star was personified and its 50-year orbital cycle woven into the rituals of a secret society. The facts were safeguarded by turning them into a compelling story, ensuring their preservation across centuries without a single written word. This method of oral transmission demanded incredible mental discipline and a cohesive community. In Scandinavia, Norse navigators relied on skaldic poetry, where complex metaphors known as kennings secretly referenced the positions of stars. A phrase about a whale's road might point to the North Star's path, giving a sailor his bearing in a featureless sea. The rhythmic, alliterative structure of these poems made them easier to memorize, turning a vital navigational code into an art form. What can this ancient, intimate form of learning teach us in our age of digital storage? It highlights the profound power of interpersonal connection in education. Knowledge passed through story and song becomes more than information. It becomes lived wisdom, emotionally resonant and culturally vital. It forges a direct, unbroken chain of understanding that binds a community to its history and its environment. This oral foundation was the living heart of the celestial code, a heartbeat that would eventually find a new, enduring pulse in the advent of writing. That Babylonian scribe pressing marks into wet clay was doing far more than just record keeping. He was building a library of the sky, a permanent database of planetary movements that could be consulted by future generations. This was the moment the celestial code moved from memory to manuscript. In Egypt, the pyramid texts carved deep within royal tombs are not just spells for the afterlife. They are precise ritual instructions describing how the pharaoh's soul would join the sun god Ra by ascending a celestial ladder, a journey mirrored by the pyramid's very alignment. Similarly, the ancient Hindu Vedas contain hymns that detail the altar constructions aligned with the rising sun, turning sacred verse into a builder's manual for cosmic connection. Writing did not just preserve this knowledge, it systematized it, allowing for a new level of precision and cross-cultural exchange. Ptolemy's Almagest, written in the 2nd century, became the astronomical Bible for over 1,000 years. It compiled centuries of Greek and Babylonian observations into a single, powerful theoretical framework, a model of the universe with Earth at its center that would dominate European and Islamic science for generations. This was the birth of a shared scientific language. Across the world, the Chinese mathematical classic, the Zhaobai Suwanjing, provided detailed instructions on using a simple gnomon. By meticulously measuring the length of a shadow cast by a vertical pole at noon, scholars could calculate the height of the sun and even the size of the Earth itself. This practical, written guide led to repeated calendar reforms, ensuring the emperor's mandate remained in harmony with the heavens. The written word became a bridge between cultures. The concept of the mathematical zero, developed in India, traveled along trade routes to the Arab world, where it revolutionized astronomical calculation, allowing for more complex predictions of planetary motion. But this codification came with a cost. While writing prevented the loss of delicate details, it could also freeze ideas into dogma. Ptolemy's geocentric model, so elegantly written down, became so authoritative that it stifled alternative views for centuries. How did written codes shape the evolution of science? They transformed scattered observations into testable theories, creating a foundation upon which others could build, even if that foundation sometimes became a cage. This precious written knowledge was not for everyone. It became the guarded treasure of a specialized class, the temple priests and court astronomers who held the keys to understanding the cosmos. A single priest in the dim light of an Egyptian temple held the power to read the sky. This was not a public science, but a closely guarded secret, a source of authority reserved for a chosen few. Across the ancient world, from the Babylonian Chaldeans to the Maya daykeepers, astronomical knowledge was often the exclusive domain of a priestly elite. These were the specialists who could predict an eclipse or interpret the ominous path of a comet, and this ability gave them immense political power. They acted as the sole intermediaries between the people and the cosmos, interpreting the will of the gods written in the stars. The historian James Fraser observed that this role made them indispensable, turning celestial events into tools of statecraft. A king's right to rule was legitimized by the priesthood's ability to read and appease the heavens, ensuring social order through a perceived connection to the divine. This knowledge was often deliberately obscured, encoded in secret languages and complex symbols. The later Hermetic traditions, embraced by Renaissance magi, traced their roots to this ancient practice of wrapping celestial science in layers of esoteric mystery. Why guard this information so jealously? In a world of uncertainty, the ability to predict seasonal floods or explain celestial omens was a form of absolute power. It provided stability, but it also created a deep social divide between the enlightened few and the dependent many. This control over the celestial code highlights the profound intersection of early science and spiritual authority, where understanding the stars meant holding the keys to both earthly and cosmic order. Yet, while the elites studied their charts, the common people were developing their own, equally vital, relationship with the sky. While the priests guarded their secret charts, farmers in the fields were reading the same sky with a different kind of wisdom. In ancient China, a farming community did not need a royal astronomer to tell them when to sow their rice. They followed the 24 solar terms, a beautifully precise folk calendar that divided the year based on the sun's position in the sky. Terms like grain rain or awakening of insects gave clear, poetic instructions for planting and harvesting, a system so effective it remains in use by gardeners and farmers across East Asia today. This was astronomy of the people, for the people. It was woven into the fabric of daily life through vibrant community traditions. Across the Baltic Sea, massive song festivals gathered thousands to celebrate the summer solstice, their voices rising with the sun in a powerful affirmation of light and life. In North America, Pawnee weavers encoded star charts into the patterns of their baskets, turning everyday objects into maps of the cosmos that preserved celestial knowledge through generations of craft. The tools were beautifully simple: A notched stick could count the days to the next full moon, signaling the best time for fishing. A lone tree on a distant hill, serving as a horizon marker, might frame the winter solstice sunrise, telling a village when the coldest days would soon begin to lengthen. Ethnographer Von Del Chamberlain documented how the Navajo cosmos was not just a map but a moral guide. Their star myths, like the story of the revolving male and female first ones, taught lessons about responsibility, balance, and community harmony, directly linking the order of the heavens to ethical behavior on Earth. How did these grassroots traditions complement the formal systems of the elites? They created a parallel, living system of knowledge. While the priest in his temple predicted eclipses to secure a king's power, the grandmother weaving a star basket ensured her family knew when to travel to higher pastures. Folk astronomy was decentralized, practical, and deeply accessible. It was passed down not in sealed libraries but through proverbs, seasonal festivals, and the skilled hands of artisans. This ensured that the profound benefits of celestial wisdom, the ability to feed a family, to navigate a forest, to live in harmony with nature and neighbor, were available to everyone, not just a privileged few. This deep, widespread connection to the sky created a fertile ground where the seeds of modern rediscovery could one day take root. Galileo's telescope did not invent a new science so much as it recovered an old one. When he first saw the 4 moons of Jupiter, he was witnessing a truth that ancient sky watchers had long suspected, that the universe operated on a coherent, mathematical order. The Renaissance became a grand reopening of the celestial library. Nicolaus Copernicus, before proposing his sun-centered model, immersed himself in the recovered works of Greek astronomers like Aristarchus, who had suggested the very same idea millennia before. This was not a sudden revolution, but a slow reawakening of a forgotten code. Johannes Kepler took this even further, driven by a profound belief that God had constructed the solar system according to perfect geometric forms. He struggled for years to fit the planetary orbits into the nested Platonic solids, a concept straight from Pythagorean mysticism. While his specific model failed, that ancient search for harmonic proportion ultimately led him to his true breakthrough, the 3 laws of planetary motion. The code hidden in stone alignments was now being written in the language of mathematics. The Enlightenment then pushed this knowledge into a new, secular realm. Yet, even as science became detached from mythology, it still relied on ancient pathways. When Captain James Cook mapped the Pacific, his secret weapon was not just his own instruments, but the presence of a Polynesian navigator named Playa, who could read the ocean and stars with a skill that left the European sailors in awe. The Royal Observatory at Greenwich, which established the prime meridian and standardized global time, was built in a location long associated with celestial observation, its 0-degree line echoing the cardinal orientations of temples built thousands of years earlier. So how did this rediscovery of ancient codes fuel the scientific revolution? It provided the essential foundation, the core idea that the cosmos was orderly, measurable, and intelligible. It gave pioneers like Kepler the intellectual courage to look for geometric patterns in the chaos of planetary motion. This blend of recovered wisdom and new observation unlocked the modern universe. Today, we use satellites and lasers to search for these forgotten alignments, proving that our most advanced technology is now helping us listen to the oldest messages ever written. A drone skims silently over the Peruvian desert, its camera capturing the vast outline of a hummingbird drawn upon the Earth. From our perspective on the ground, these Nazca lines are magnificent but enigmatic. From the sky, a hidden pattern emerges. The long, straight beak of that hummingbird points unerringly toward the spot on the horizon where the Pleiades star cluster would have risen at a significant time of year. This is the power of modern archaeoastronomy, using tools our ancestors could never have dreamed of to finally read the messages they left for us. Sophisticated technology like LiDAR, which uses lasers to see through dense forest canopies, is revealing entire ceremonial landscapes aligned to celestial events. In Cambodia, LiDAR has mapped the ancient city of Angkor, showing that its main temples form a massive astronomical array with central towers aligned to solstice sunrises. Satellite imagery lets researchers analyze thousands of sites at once, detecting subtle orientation patterns across continents that a single person on the ground could never perceive. Researchers like Clive Ruggles employ specialized software to roll back the clock, reconstructing the precise night sky as it appeared 4,000 years ago. They can input the coordinates of a solitary standing stone and see which star first gleamed above it on the day it was erected. This digital rewind has verified countless hypotheses. Take the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, a massive earthwork shaped like a coiling snake. For generations, people wondered about its purpose. Modern analysis suggests its head is aligned to the summer solstice sunset, while its winding body may elegantly mirror the sinuous shape of the constellation Draco overhead. This was not a simple effigy, but a sophisticated, dual-layered cosmic map built into the land itself. These technological confirmations are vital. They silence skeptics by proving with mathematical certainty that these alignments were deliberate acts of genius, not happy accidents of construction. The scale of planning becomes clear, revealing that these projects required a unified, society-wide effort spanning generations. This digital toolkit also serves as a crucial preservation device. As climate change and urban expansion threaten these fragile sites, creating precise 3D models ensures that even if a structure is lost, its celestial relationship is recorded forever. What other grand designs hidden by jungle or sand are waiting for a satellite to unveil them? The potential for discovery is limitless, yet for all its power, technology cannot settle every debate. Controversies burn brightly in this field. Does a cluster of 5 stones truly represent the Pleiades, or is that just a pattern we are imposing on the past? One researcher might see a calendar, while another sees a territorial marker. The stones themselves do not speak, and our interpretations are filtered through our own modern worldview, a reminder that the final code, the true meaning, often remains just beyond our reach. A weathered rock formation on Mars, glimpsed by a satellite, briefly convinced the world it was a carved face. This is the perilous edge where the study of ancient astronomy can slip from science into pure fantasy. The line between a genuine celestial alignment and a simple trick of light and shadow is often incredibly thin. Astronomer Ed Krupp, a leading voice of caution, reminds us that with thousands of ancient sites and hundreds of potential stars, some alignments are bound to occur by pure chance. A window in a temple might frame a star today, but was that the builder's intent, or has the building settled over millennia, subtly shifting its aim? The heated debate over the so-called Bosnian pyramids is a stark lesson in how nationalism and the desire for a glorious past can override archaeological evidence, turning natural hills into contested monuments of a lost civilization. This rigorous skepticism is not meant to destroy wonder but to refine it. It is the essential process that separates fact from folklore. Take the massive stone heads of Easter Island. For a time, wild theories suggested the Moai were complex astronomical computers. Meticulous fieldwork, however, revealed a simpler truth. While some statues are oriented toward key celestial points, they are not precise instruments. They are ancestors watching over the community, their gaze encompassing both the land and the sky in a sacred, but not strictly scientific, relationship. This same rigorous methodology has, in contrast, confirmed the astounding intentionality of the Maya. The layout of their great cities like Copan and Uxmal was undeniably engineered to track the cycles of Venus and the Sun with pinpoint accuracy. Why is this healthy skepticism so vital? It acts as a filter, straining out the noise of speculation so the true signal of ancient genius can be heard. It forces researchers to ask harder questions, to seek multiple lines of evidence, and to build conclusions that can withstand scrutiny. This tension between open-minded discovery and rigorous doubt is not a weakness in the field. It is the very engine that drives it forward. It ensures that the forgotten codes we finally decipher are not just stories we wish were true, but messages from the past that are truly worthy of our awe. A Maori elder points toward the cluster of stars known as Matariki. It's rising a signal for the new year and a time to remember the ancestors. This simple act of looking up is part of a powerful global movement, as indigenous communities reclaim the celestial knowledge that colonization systematically suppressed. They are not merely reviving old rituals, they are rebuilding the very pillars of cultural identity and restoring a lost relationship with the natural world. In North America, the Lakota Sioux have reinstated the sacred Sundance ceremony, its timing and structure deeply aligned with the summer solstice, a direct reconnection to the sun's life-giving power. High in the Andes, the Inca festival of Inti Raymi, once banned by Spanish conquerors, now draws thousands to celebrate the winter solstice with traditional solar observations. This is more than cultural restoration. It is an act of resilience, a declaration that these ancient codes still hold profound meaning. The revival is increasingly collaborative, bridging the gap between traditional wisdom and modern science. Elders and astrophysicists are finding common ground, combining generations of observational data with satellite imagery to track subtle environmental shifts. This partnership, sometimes called ethnoastronomy, is proving vital in the fight against climate change, as indigenous star calendars and weather predictions offer unique, long-term perspectives on ecosystem changes. Organizations like the Indigenous Education Institute work to protect and promote this knowledge, ensuring it is passed on not as a relic, but as a living, breathing guide for the future. How does this renewal benefit all of us? It reintroduces a worldview where humanity is part of an intricate cosmic balance, not separate from it. This perspective offers powerful, alternative models for sustainability, reminding us that our survival is intertwined with the rhythms of the earth and sky. Their resilience in reclaiming this celestial heritage does more than restore the past. It illuminates a path forward, one written in the stars and now being followed back home. The same principles that aligned the pyramids could one day guide the construction of a city on Mars. Future habitats on the Red Planet may well be oriented to the Martian solstices, their domes and corridors positioned to capture the weak sunlight for power and psychological well-being, a direct echo of ancient builders using their local sun as a fundamental design tool. This is not nostalgia, it is practical wisdom rediscovered for a new age. Our search for life beyond Earth is also being shaped by this ancient code. Modern astronomy, in its hunt for exoplanets in the habitable zones of distant stars, relies on detecting tiny, repeated dips in starlight, cyclical patterns not so different from the Saros cycle the Babylonians used to predict eclipses. We are looking for rhythm in the cosmos just as they did. Scientists with the search for extraterrestrial intelligence even ponder a profound question. If an alien civilization wanted to send a signal we could understand, might it use the universal language of mathematics, the same constants of geometry and harmonic ratios we find encoded in Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid? The Forgotten Code suggests that certain truths about number and pattern might be common to all intelligent life. This ancient wisdom is already inspiring a revolution in sustainable design right here on Earth. Architects are turning to biomimicry, designing buildings that cool themselves like termite mounds or generate energy like leaves, creating structures that exist in harmony with their environment. This is the modern equivalent of building with the cosmos, a philosophy that prioritizes balance over brute force. As we confront global challenges from climate change to resource scarcity, the ancient model of integrating celestial observation with community needs offers a powerful alternative. Their societies viewed human life as part of a vast, interconnected system, not separate from it. What can these time-tested systems teach us? They demonstrate that the most enduring innovations often spring from patient observation and a deep respect for natural cycles, not from dominating them. This forward-looking perspective, where the oldest codes inform our newest frontiers, brings our journey to its final reflection. Your own window can become a celestial instrument. At the equinox, notice how the sunlight falls in a straight line across your floor, a phenomenon observed in temples thousands of years ago. You do not need a stone circle to engage with this ancient code. A simple garden plan to follow the sun's seasonal arc, or a moment each evening to watch for the moon's first sliver, can reconnect you to these timeless rhythms. This is not about recreating the past, but about rediscovering a fundamental human practice, one that transforms the sky from a distant spectacle into a personal guide. How might tracking these celestial cycles change your awareness? Following the moon's phases can bring a gentle, monthly rhythm to a hectic life, while marking the solstices offers a chance to pause and reflect on the turning of the year, grounding you in the natural world. This personal engagement turns historical mystery into lived experience, making the Forgotten Code vibrantly relevant again. Modern tools can open this door wider. Smartphone apps can identify constellations overhead in real time, revealing the same star patterns that navigators use to cross oceans. Visiting a local historical site with an eye for its orientation can reveal a hidden layer of meaning, allowing you to stand where ancient builders stood and see what they saw. These simple acts are a form of mindfulness, a conscious choice to step outside the artificial cycles of our digital world and realign with a larger cosmic order. By integrating these small insights into our daily lives, we do more than just learn history. We honor the legacy of our ancestors, acknowledging their genius not as a lost secret, but as a living invitation to find our own place within the grand, ordered universe they so carefully mapped. From the solitary stones of Nabta Playa to the Grand Pyramids of Giza, we have traced a forgotten code written in the language of the stars. This journey reveals a universal human truth, a drive to find our place within the cosmos by carving our understanding directly into the Earth. These alignments were far more than primitive calendars. They were a profound synthesis of science, spirituality, and art, a testament to an ingenuity that connected the practical need to plant crops with the spiritual longing to touch the divine. The stones themselves tell this dual story. They guided farmers to the right season and navigators across trackless seas, while simultaneously framing the myths that gave life its deepest meaning. They were both a tool for survival and a poem to the universe. This ancient wisdom offers us a powerful reminder today. In our fast-paced, digitally saturated world, we can draw inspiration from their model of balance, from their patient observation of natural rhythms, and from their drive to build in harmony with the cosmos, not in opposition to it. I would love to hear which of these ancient sites captured your imagination the most. Share your thoughts on these enduring mysteries in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this celestial journey, subscribe for more explorations into history's greatest hidden stories. Thank you for watching, and may this glimpse into our shared past ignite a lasting sense of wonder in your own exploration.